Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Your boy Denny Hamlin and Kurt. Kurt is with us as well.
That's
Your
right.
boy Denny Hamlin, though, is in victory lane at Michigan last weekend, leading the last 5 laps after a pretty wild race up in the Irish Hills. And according to Jeff Gluck's poll, the best race of the year. Michigan put on a hell of a show on Sunday. William Byron led most of the race, led 98 of the 200 laps. Carson Hocevar was up there looking like he could get the win. He was short on fuel, though. He ended up blowing a tire, actually, from the lead. He finished 29th. William Byron finished 28th after running out of fuel, I think, with 1 lap to go. After, again, a great day. But Denny Hamlin in victory lane. Chris Buescher looked like early he could win it. He went up there. He took the lead. Green flag pass for the lead. We saw several of them throughout the day, but Chris Buescher looked strong all day. He finished second. My boy Ty Gibbs comes home with a podium finish, third place finish for Ty Gibbs. Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, the top 5. Chastain, Zane Smith, Kyle Busch, Ryan Preece, and Brad Keselowski. All 3 RFK cars grab a top 10 finish there at Michigan. Nick, was that the best race of the year?
I think so, for sure. Yeah, I would say most likely yes. And apologies if you hear meowing coming through the microphone. Got a little kitten and still trying to just figure out, all the best spots to put him. So if you hear any meows on this episode, it's my 11-week-old kitten, Kurt. But yeah, I thought it was a very good race. I will say, I don't know if it was 92, 93% good. I would give it more like a 88, 89%, but that's kind of nitpicky, right? It wasn't for me like one of the best races of the next gen era. I mean, it certainly doesn't compare to a couple of those Kansas races,
Right.
Atlanta, for example. But I still thought it was very good. It kind of had everything. It had fuel mileage. It had passes for the lead. It had crazy restarts. It had some crashes. So yeah, it was a very, very good race. And I'd probably take it down 1 or 2% because it was Denny Hamlin winning, not Chris Buescher winning. I had a whole bunch of bets on RFK to win. So no, I'm just kidding. I don't actually let my bets influence my rating of the race, but a little bummed that Buescher actually was ahead of Denny Hamlin, and Busch, when all those guys in front of them were trying to save fuel, he tried to make a pass on Zane Smith and kind of lost it. And that allowed Denny Hamlin and Ty Gibbs, I believe it was, to both get past him. If that hadn't happened, I think Chris Buescher ends up the winner there. So a little mistake on Buescher's part, relegated him to a second place finish. I think he's kicking himself over that one. But yeah, Ty Gibbs, I'm not sold that he's back. He was horrible.
He was not good through the mid portion of that race.
For most of that race. Honestly, I think, he got out there on strategy and the clean air helped, but because it was so strategy dependent and he was in the right spot and everybody was saving, it kind of worked out for him. But not sold he's back, but definitely you win the over under 14.5. I was looking good for most of that race on 14.5 though.
Yeah, I didn't look at what his average running position was in that race. I'll pull it up here quick. But yeah, I agree with you. Chris Buescher, I think, had the car to beat. Byron led the most laps, but that was more, when he gets out front, he's hard as hell to pass, and they're always out front. But Buescher, I think they let one slip away there, and if they miss the playoffs, I think they're going to look back at that race and they're going to say that they should have been in victory lane in that race. Buescher had a hell of a car, and I think some pit strategy maybe screwed him up. Again, I was at the race, so I wasn't really watching the broadcast and not 100% like into what was happening. But I think, if I remember right, there was pit strategy or something that kind of screwed him, or maybe a slow pit stop. Same with Chase Elliott. I don't know what Alan Gustafson was doing there with his pit strategy, but I think Chase Elliott had a much better car than he actually came away with.
So Ty Gibbs 25th in green flag speed and 12th in average running position. He, probably was somewhere between a 12th and 25th place car, I would say, on aggregate.
Yep. Yeah, the lowest average running position out of the first top 8 finishers. So, and that's him starting 8th. So he should have been much better than that. But got the finish. He got that third place finish. But yeah. And a few other notables in this race. Tyler Reddick, his car came alive there in the second stage. Then he got popped or he got stuck in his pit stall and then came up a little too much. Keselowski was a little too far out. He got stuck. Then he stalled it. That ruined his day. I forget what happened to Christopher Bell. I feel like they had pit road issues. SVG came away with another 18th place finish. Another strong day for him. And Alex Bowman had, holy shit, was that a scary hit.
Yeah.
When I saw that replay, I can't believe that let's say this. I would not be surprised one bit if he was out this week for a concussion. Like that's the hardest hit I've seen in a while.
He said he was totally fine in his TV interview. I mean, and he looked totally fine. He didn't look like a guy that was dazed or anything like that. Now, certainly sometimes these symptoms can crop up later, but honestly, I think he was totally fine. NASCAR has done a lot of work on these front end hits, especially. We saw, when Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman got concussions, it was rear end hits with the brand new car, but they've also worked on the rear end hits. We haven't really seen any concussions the last couple of years. We did see Connor Zilisch have a head-on wreck in an Xfinity car, hurt his back, and was out a couple of weeks. But so far, nothing on the Bowman front. And honestly, I think he escaped injury, which is good to see because that is definitely the hardest head-on collision I have seen, arguably ever, in a Cup car.
Yeah, that was scary, and I'm glad to see that him not have any issues there from that race and from that wreck. Going back to Hocevar, so he was in position to win yet again, and I will say I understand that it was his home race, but I saw a lot of Carson Hocevar shirts in the crowd, which was, I think, encouraging. And I saw a tweet earlier this week. I think one of the big NASCAR media guys retweeted it or something, and someone basically said they're getting into NASCAR, like actually getting into it now, but they don't know how to pick a favorite driver. Who would you pick and why? And I'm curious, this is kind of a little spinoff, but I'm kind of curious how you would answer that question for someone new coming into the sport.
Who would you pick as a favorite driver and why?
Yeah. Like if you were encouraging someone new into the sport
I think I saw that. What was it? Ryan Fitzpatrick or whatever it was, the NFL quarterback was kind of doing that.
I think so. Yeah.
I saw a lot of answers to that. Some people were saying, well, I like Chevys, and then from there I'll pick a Chevy driver. And some people were saying, pick this guy because he's whatever, pick that guy. You kind of just have to watch it and you'll naturally gravitate toward something or someone, in my opinion. I don't think you can just say, all right, this is the driver I'm going to root for, because you may end up not liking him, or for some reason, I think it was Greg Mathern started out as a Hocevar fan, and then once Hocevar started right-rearing everybody, he soured on Hocevar, right? So you don't want to just say, this is my guy without really getting into the sport, but it is easier to get into the sport if you have a person to root for as well. So a little bit of a catch-22 in that situation, but I don't know. For me, I went years without a favorite driver in NASCAR after Jeff Gordon retired. I had drivers I liked, right? Your Paul Menards, your Denny Hamlins, etc. That was, I definitely very much liked, but it wasn't like, this is my favorite driver, like it was with Jeff Gordon, or like it is with Kyle Kirkwood now for IndyCar. So yeah, I think you just got to watch and you'll figure out what you like. I've never really understood being a fan of a manufacturer, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I definitely would prefer, being a fan of a driver instead of a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah. I think I kind of went I went opposite, because I started out before I started really getting heavy into fantasy NASCAR and then NASCAR betting. I was a big Kyle Busch fan, and I really liked Kyle Busch because he was not the status quo driver. He went out there and he kicked people's asses and he said how it was. And I like that about him. And then as I got more into fantasy and betting, I don't know, I've adapted the mentality of I don't have a favorite driver. It's whoever I bet on. I root for whoever I want. I have shirts and merch from probably 10 or 12 different. I'm wearing a Ross I just bought a Ross Chastain shirt on Sunday at the race. I feel like I'm a fan of everyone. I have guys that I don't particularly like kind of like not really as people, but just like their driver persona. Or like Christopher Bell has been my nemesis in betting for years. Like that's just another thing. But yeah, that's an interesting question. But I agree with you. Like if you start watching NASCAR and you really get into it, I think you definitely will gravitate toward a guy. And I think a lot of it is going to like, obviously people choose winners. Like you like there's a good solid of the NASCAR fan population that just picks the guys that run up front a lot and win a lot. But then there's also the guys that actually have personality, and you kind of gravitate toward those. So yeah, it's an interesting question and an interesting kind of way of how people choose who they root for. You know, the same things for like football and stuff, but a lot of football stuff is kind of passed down through your family. You know, if your dad was a whatever fan, you ended up being them too. And I'm sure that can happen with NASCAR, but if you're getting into it as an adult, you probably don't have that situation. So yeah. Just a little side topic there that I thought was interesting this weekend. That came up. Let me see here. You got anything else from these results that's noteworthy?
Yeah, Bubba Wallace back in the game, right? 6th and 4th the last 2 weeks. And
Alex Bowman
continues the slide.
Yeah.
And he wasn't very good in stage 1. He and Ty Gibbs both went straight backward. Which put him in that position to be in the middle of that wreck. That was completely not his fault. But the bad luck continues for Alex Bowman, right? I would say pretty much every single one of these results has not been his fault, at least in the current slide. And he continues to be Jekyll and Hyde, right? Every result, either a top 10 or a 26th or worse. It's pretty wild, you know, that's been Alex Bowman's season.
Especially a guy that, you know, for the past seems like 3 years has been the model of consistency. You know, he's been that 8th to 14th place driver most weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And Brad Keselowski came home 10th, overcame a late speeding penalty that he tweeted about that he completely disagreed with. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, tweet. I did. And did you see the response to it from, what's his name, Bozzy?
No, I didn't see that.
There was a whole thread that kind of broke down how basically, because Todd Gilliland responded as well and said, yeah, there was a section that I wasn't fast in, and they said I was like 4 miles an hour over. And basically what they said was, you know, your telemetry is that far off.
It's fair.
Which is surprising, but you know, it brings up a topic of, do they need to like figure out a better way to do this?
Yeah, it is an interesting discussion point, because I mean, Keselowski was fully convinced he was under by a good chunk, and he was over by a good chunk. So definitely just brings up a wild discrepancy there. I guess it's probably another win for track history, Michigan track history. Christopher Bell, 16th. Alex Bowman, we saw, struggled. Ty Gibbs did well. Eric Jones did well. You know, like, there's another big track history win for the next gen era. We talk a lot about how track history has been maybe more important in the next gen era than ever. Look at Chris Buescher. Look at Brad Keselowski, how well they ran. Keselowski, of course, until the penalty. But yeah, I think RFK car is doing so well. Ryan Preece grabbing a top 10 finish. Hendrick Motorsports not really being the dominant car aside from William Byron, which they haven't been in recent years at Michigan. So yeah, I think it's another big track history win for the next gen car.
I agree. Especially Bell. You know, we talked about him last week, 0 top 10s, another, you know, finish outside of the top 10. Looked really good in practice. A lot of people liked him this week, and he looked decent up until, I think he had a pit road issue, but he wasn't flying through the field like some other of the faster cars were. Like when the green flag dropped and Tyler Reddick started in the back, he passed 13 cars on the first lap. I don't know if they showed it on TV. He passed 13 cars on the first lap. I watched it.
Yep.
It was wild to see. But yeah, Bell, for whatever reason, and same thing with Chase Elliott. Like, he was strong, and he's been really strong at Michigan overall. Chris Buescher, same thing. But yeah, just overall a very good race there. a fun one. And I think part of the reason why, going back to why this was rated as the number one race in Gluck's poll this year, is kind of recency bias.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah. Like we had a horrible stretch there. So that's why I think it gets a few extra percentage points, is simply because, aside from maybe one or two recent races, we've gone through an absolutely awful stretch. So people are more likely to vote for yes, as long as it's not completely horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was a major part of it. By the way, I have his comment here posted on this or propped on the screen here. Matt, congratulations on taking down, I think it was the lug nut or the chrome horn this last week. I saw that tweet. Congratulations on that. That's a hell of a takedown there.
That's kind of almost a segue into my whine about it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, let's go into that then.
Well, I got two whine about it, okay. But that's the first one. So whining that Matt took down $15,000 and I didn't, right? Right. I'm just kidding. I had a really, really good core for my DFS lines. So the only piece that was missing was Daniel Suarez, and I intentionally left Daniel Suarez off. I kind of just wanted to keep my core as concentrated as possible. If I'd slipped Daniel Suarez in, I would have had, a winning lineup for sure across my 135 lines. So that sucks. So that's whine about it, part one. I should have put Daniel Suarez into my group of drivers. I think I had, I wrote up my article at Fantasy Labs. I had 10 drivers that I wrote about, I believe, at Fantasy Labs. And then I added, I think, 3 others that ended up in my lineups. So I only had like 13, I believe it was, drivers for 135 lineups. If I just added Daniel Suarez, I still would have had 14, and I probably would have done the full 150 lineups. And I probably would have taken something down. So kind of annoyed that I didn't. So that's whine about it. Part one is not adding Daniel Suarez into my DFS lines. Whine about it. Part number 2, and I should say I do have got the orange mimosa, right?
Yeah.
Good. I just gotta keep rolling with it. It's already opened, so may as well have some more. So I do have the Viva Bella Wines Passion Orange Mimosa. I have to take a sip. It's delicious. And I will say, Matt, I did talk with Matt. I was just chit-chatting with him. And so this is not whine about it, but I'm just a side topic. I was chit-chatting with him, and, he says, a lot of it to you guys. I'm hopefully I convinced him to have a little more Denny Hamlin, because he said he was kind of not quite sold on Denny Hamlin. And I was like, I am. I'm sold on Denny Hamlin. So hopefully I bumped your Hamlin ownership percentage up by our chit-chat there. But the other Louisville whine about it I have is, are we going to get the whole Catherine Legg shit again this week? Because I'm so sick of it, right? She made one mistake in front of Daniel Suarez at Phoenix. Any other wreck she's been in this year has not been her fault, whether it was the Williams Sawalich just plowing in her rear, kind of like Carson Hocevar did to Stenhouse, or, the super speedway wreck, which was totally not her fault, and she was on her way to a top 10, 15 run. Plus, she's a road course racer. I mean, she comes from IndyCar and Champ Cars, where at the time when she was in the Champ Car series, they didn't even do ovals. So she is a road course driver. And so it's like, why are we whining already about Catherine Legg before the weekend even starts? Yet still nobody's asking who Kyle Larson was going to wreck going into the Indy 500, right? I see like, who's Catherine Legg going to Catherine Legg this week? Well, why are we never saying who is Kyle Larson going to Kyle Larson this week in the Indy 500 when he's there? Because, I mean, he had 3 crashes in one event. I'm talking about practice and qualifying and the race. He had 3 crashes in one event in 1 month at the same track. So just, I'm just sick of the Catherine Legg stuff. And I've already started seeing it on Twitter this week. And can we just stop, please? If she makes a mistake and takes out some drivers, sure, complain about that. But only
if
has
she
made
makes
one
an
mistake, and it was in her debut.
Mistake.
Yeah, she's only made one mistake, and it was in her debut. And she hasn't made a mistake since. And it's just, it needs to stop until she does make another mistake. But hey, Kyle Larson's wrecked cars recently in the Cup Series. I mean, he made 2 mistakes. Well, actually, he made one major mistake at Charlotte. The other one, he got caught up in a wreck. But I mean, Kyle Larson has made mistakes in the Cup car as well, plenty of times. And that nobody's like, who's Kyle Larson going to Kyle Larson this week? So everybody makes mistakes. Catherine Legg has been improving, and now she's on a road course where I think she will. I wouldn't say do the best. She's in a BJ McLeod car, right? So it's not going to be amazing, but hopefully she won't have too much. I could see her making a mistake simply because, it's probably her first road course race in a Cup car, and there could be a little bit of a learning curve there. But thankfully, there is a little bit more forgiving opportunity in a road course to not also take other people out. And I could see the mistake or 2 happening in practice, and then in the race, it'll be a lot better. So just got to wait and see. I mean, Catherine Legg has been a very, very good race car driver across multiple different types of cars and things like that. So just tired of seeing it already before the week even starts.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not the best situation either, because if she makes a mistake, she's going to be the villain again. And if she doesn't, it'll be, oh, she got lucky or something like that. It's never going to be she had a good race.
Yeah.
It's always going to be that. So it's unfortunate, and I get it. And hopefully that that kind of stops or is minimal this week, leading up to and during the race and after, for that matter.
That's all I got for one about it.
All right.
I whined about myself to kick it off with, right?
Right.
See, I whined about myself to start.
Gotta love weeks like that. Nick mentioned, or Matt mentioned, my whine about it is that I would have split the 100K in the big GPP. I get you there. I was same exact boat at Nashville, and it sucks. But hey, if anything, it just proves that you're good enough to.
I would have too if I had put Daniel Suarez in my core.
Yeah. All right, my whine about it is the comments I'm seeing overall on this Mexico race. I guess I kind of expected the racist ones. Mm-hmm. As much as the NASCAR fan base wants to say that they're not racist, a good chunk of them are. And it's just coming out. I mean, if you look at Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s tweet today that he said he couldn't get down to Mexico like as planned because his flight got canceled or his plane wasn't available. I mean, it's just full of anti-Mexican rhetoric. So that's disappointing to see. But overall, I'm seeing a lot of people bitch about the NASCAR media guys and the teams reporting how the haulers had to get from Michigan to Mexico, and then they have to go up to Pocono, and just the journey, and literally just documenting this journey that, newsflash, has not happened. This is a first we have not raced in Mexico in 50 years?
Yeah, for the Cup Series, absolutely not. I think we had some Xfinity races there and stuff, but that's a little different situation as well. So
there is something that is new happening to the sport, looking to expand it, and people are just like, I'm so tired of seeing stuff about the haulers making it to the. Okay, look past it. You know what? We'll have to deal with it for 2 more weeks. Who cares? It's literally just fucking news on the sport. What would you rather have? Absolutely nothing, absolutely no news at all, nothing being reported throughout the week other than the fucking entry list. What? This is once again just points out that no fan can be at all satisfied with anything with this sport, because if you're bitching about them talking about the fucking haulers getting from Michigan to Mexico, which by the way I think is pretty cool, just seeing their process and seeing what they all have to do, I think it's cool. If you don't think it's cool, then shut the fuck up, because no one cares about your fucking opinion. Sorry, this pisses me off more than a lot of shit does this week.
I agree.
This year,
I agree.
Holy shit!
This is like you said, an historic event for NASCAR, the Cup Series. Aside from, Canada, when was the last time? Cup Series hasn't even raced in Canada. So when was the last time Cup Series raced outside of the U.S.? It's been forever. They had an exhibition, I believe it was in Japan a couple decades ago, but I mean, this is pretty historic, and this isn't political or anything. All I'm saying is we're all people, right? We all are people, and doesn't matter where you're from. We're people. We're humans, and just we don't need the negative rhetoric. I've been to Mexico multiple times, usually the Cancun area, and it was wonderful. So Bob Pockrass, Jeff Gluck, they've been to Mexico City before, back when the Xfinity Series days, and they had a good time. So just a lot of rhetoric that doesn't need to go around, just in general. I'm excited for the race. I think it's cool to have a new track. Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez is a really cool track. And I'm excited to talk about it because I have a lot of opinions about the track and how it, could play out for the race and things like that, and what it could mean for driver performance. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to a new event. We should be excited about new events wherever they are. People get excited about North Wilkesboro or Rockingham back on the schedule, or this other new track or that other new track. We should get excited about this one too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And everything surrounding it, when things go back to everyday normal stuff after this week, I just think it's going to be cool to kind of watch how this goes and everything surrounding it. And again, if people aren't interested in it, then don't pay attention. That's my.
Would we be hearing as much negative comments if this race was up in Canada or if this race was in Europe?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but
I agree.
And I think that's also why. So I was questioning as well, like when I first saw that they had to go from Michigan to Mexico to Pocono, I'm like, that's insane.
That is we can definitely complain about that scheduling quirk of Michigan, Mexico, Pocono, that's not good on the scheduling front. Yeah, that's legitimate beef for the, why are we making them go all the way across the continent, let alone country, and then all the way back across the continent? If you would just put Mexico City after Nashville, it would be a lot better. Yeah, it would be a haul to Michigan, but maybe you could work it out with Atlanta as a stop in between and then do Mexico City and Pocono, right? Like there's ways and honestly, this goes to Formula One as well. We're seeing Formula One has now changed the schedule to where they've put Canada on the Indy 500 weekend because they want it next to the schedule with Miami. And honestly, it makes sense. Like it makes sense to want to keep things in North America. And it's not going to be on back-to-back weeks, I believe, but in back-to-back races, it makes sense. And I'm not complaining about it. It sucks that, we don't have the classic triple header like we used to, but we're still going to have 3 races on Motorsports Christmas. And maybe we don't know the start times of everything yet, but maybe there will be a possibility that the 3 won't overlap. Maybe. But at the same time, it makes sense why Formula One did that. And you can't say, fuck you, Formula One, for making the schedule more sensible for yourselves and then say, well, fuck you, NASCAR, for not making the schedule more sensible, right? Like you can't have both. You need to either have consistency with like the schedule should be favorable for each series on their own, or you can't complain about Michigan, Mexico, Pocono, but not complain about Canada and Miami together.
Going back, so one tweet, and I don't know the actuality of this or how accurate it is, but I saw where the reason that it's like this schedule is because NASCAR originally assumed that Montreal would be this race and not Mexico. So if it would have been Montreal, that would have made a lot more sense because you go up to Montreal, then you come back right back down to Pocono. Again, I don't know how factual that is.
Yeah, no idea. No idea.
Yeah, I saw there was quite a bit of bickering about the F1 thing as well online, which, anytime something gets changed,
I mean, you know me, if it's on at the same time as Indy 500, I'm watching Indy 500. And if you want to do your whole national pride thing, watch the Indy 500 over the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah. And well, I saw a lot of replies from F1 people that were basically saying that the Indy 500 really isn't that big an event. And
Because they don't know. They don't pay
Yeah.
attention to it. They don't understand that it actually is that big of an event.
I mean, you look at the stats, and I think it's the most attended live sporting event, and
In
it's
the world.
also the most, and it's the most, or one of the most watched. Like
This year it will be the most watched motorsports event, period.
Yeah.
I beat the Daytona 500. Nothing is going to top Indy or Daytona 500 in North America. So, in terms of North America, it will be the most watched motorsports event of the year, period. Just because you're a Formula One fan, not you specifically, anybody out there, but like, just because one is a Formula One fan and doesn't think it is important because their Formula One brain doesn't mean it actually isn't. And there's a lot of us that are fans of all three of the series. I don't watch Formula One as much as I should, partly because time zones, a lot of it's in Europe or Asia, and time zones that are inconvenient for me. But also part of it is Formula One has been more parade aspect in the recent years, especially Monaco, which is a complete parade. But you can't say Monaco is a more important event than Indy, because it's just not. That's just factual. It's just not more of an important event than the Indy 500.
But yeah, it'll be. And to be honest with you, like, I never watched. Like, it doesn't really affect me because I never watched the F1. I have no interest in F1 whatsoever. I'll watch it.
I love it. I love F1. I just loved it more in the past. I don't love it as much now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for Wine About It this week. As always, presented by LuvaBella Winery. Make sure you check them out, luvabella.com. The brew kettle for your wine and beer needs.
My next delivery will definitely have to have some brew kettle, and I love the white Raja. So
I don't like IPAs, and I drink.
You like that,
so.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to these point standings. I don't have them up. That's weird. 1 second. Okay. William Byron is still the points leader. 41 points over Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin moves up to third with his win. Ross Chastain moves up to eighth. Joey Logano jumps down to ninth, or falls down to ninth. Chris Buescher up to 12th. Alex Bowman drops another spot down to 13th. The cut line is now Ryan Preece is in over Kyle Busch. They are tied on points, 322 each. And first guy out is Kyle Busch right now. And then Carson Hocevar is 18 points behind those two. AJ Allmendinger also 18 points. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 20 points behind the cut line. Eric Jones jumps up 3 spots. He is 36 points below the cut line. Zane Smith 37 points, as is Michael. There's a lot of ties. As is Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, and Austin Dillon, and John Hunter Nemechek are all tied to 207 points. Wow,
it's crazy.
And this week's going to be interesting because we could definitely see the cut line move down or move up the more. We have a road course. AJ Allmendinger is not in right now. He can easily win. He can not easily win.
Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, right? We can talk about all these guys that are not in yet that have won at road course races.
SVG is the favorite heading into Mexico City. He is 33rd in points right now, but definitely going to be a contender this race weekend. But yeah, not a lot of
Cody Ware. No, I'm just kidding.
What about our boy Todd Gilliland?
Gilly Gang.
He's 10th place finish at Coda. Yeah. He looked strong at Michigan, by the way.
He was really good at Coda too, and I think it was Joey Logano, his Ford teammate, punted him out of the way at one point late in the race, and then that slide or whatever it was cost Gilliland his tires there, and he ended up sliding back, which karma to Joey Logano, because somehow he ended up, I don't even know how it was, but he ended up finishing even worse than Gilliland. But I believe it was Joey Logano, if I remember correctly, that like punted him out of the way with, I don't know the number of laps, I'm guesstimate like 10 to go or something. And Gilly just fell straight back after that. I think he was running 6th or 5th or 7th or something like that. Ended up falling to 10th and out of the top Ford spot. So really good Coda run for Todd Gilliland. And I believe some of the stats I've seen, he's been like 50% in the top 10 over his last handful of road course races. I think iFantasy Race tweeted that out.
Yeah, I I feel bad for doing it because obviously we have no track history here at Mexico, and my mantra is to always wait after practice and qualifying and in situations like that. But I'm eyeing Todd Gilliland 9-1 for a top 10 finish this weekend on FanDuel. I think I remember at Coda I hit it 11-1. I don't remember if you had it as well, and I think you might have. But yeah, I got my eye on that, and I did bet Kyle Busch to win 25-1. He opened 25-1 on Bet365. I went ahead and hit that. He arguably had the best car, at least a top 3 car at Coda.
Yeah, I would say that my only hesitation is I don't think this really compares comps to Coda.
Yeah, you're more on the Road America side, aren't you?
Nope.
Or shit, Sonoma?
Nope.
Which one?
Well, we're talking standings. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, good point. Oh yeah. I kind of just went right into Mexico, didn't I?
Yep.
All right. But yeah, not a lot of changes over here on the standing side. Even with that 28th place finish, Byron still has a healthy lead over Larson in the points for the regular season point standings. With 9 races to go now, Byron should be a factor this week as well. Mm-hmm. Typically very strong at road courses. Anything you have important wise for these points?
Yeah, you talked about how the cut line could move up. What that also does is, of course, the cut line right now is Kyle Busch, and that puts Preece and Bowman and Buescher and Chase Briscoe and Bubba Wallace closer to the danger zone if it moves up.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those guys, and again, I'm not trying to get ahead of Mexico City, but some of those guys are going to have to think about points racing. So I think that's important with the point standings is where are these guys' mindsets heading into Mexico City? But then also the guys outside the cut line that are kind of close. Your Carson Hosevars, your AJ Allmendingers, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., obviously we know is points racing because he's not a winning contender at Mexico City. So he's going to get as many points as he can. But Allmendinger, Hocevar, I've seen people bet on Carson Hocevar for the win this weekend. And, what do these guys do for strategies? Do they go for the win? Do they points race because they're right outside the bubble? Do they assume the bubble's going to move up? There's a lot of points implications here, that are kind of wild. So I think again, I don't want to jump out of Mexico City, but I think the point standings are something we need to think about when we think about Mexico City.
In my mind, guys like Allmendinger, I don't see any chance that he points races.
I agree. But you also, what if he qualifies 28th and something happens at qualifying and there's basically no reason for him to be on the optimal strategy because then 15 other cars pit on the optimal strategy and he'll just be 16th coming out after the stage, So I think there's scenarios where maybe he could points race because if everybody ahead of him pits and he can win a stage and do some kind of like weird stage flipping where maybe pits partway through stage 2 and then the caution comes out at the right time, so I wouldn't completely say he's going on the winning strategy. I think a lot of it is qual and practice dependent, but by and large, if he doesn't have issues in qualifying, he's going to be on the winning strategy.
Yeah, and we've seen guys like we mentioned Chris Buescher here, potentially getting closer to the bubble or on the bubble. He's one of those guys. He does not qualify well at road courses.
That's exactly who I'm thinking about. Is like he could be points racing this weekend if he qualifies kind of deep, and he qualified 24th at Coda, and at the track that I'll comp this to best. He didn't qualify well either every single time. So I agree with you. I think Chris Buescher could potentially be in points racing mode this weekend because of where the point standings are and because the cut line could move up and because of how he might qualify.
Yeah, and that was, I remember back to Watkins Glen last year. Like I love Chris Buescher. I've been on the Chris Buescher road course train for years now. Like Chris Buescher at road courses, lock him in. But that was why I didn't like him particularly at Watkins Glen last year was because he qualified so deep. And I was like, I know he has a good car and that he can get there with the right things happening. But starting 24th, that is a tough thing to overcome on a road course. Now, obviously, that's a very good example. He did end up winning that race. But it brings into question, whether they would go for the win. And I agree with you. I think he'll be points racing, especially if he doesn't qualify well.
Well, I think the situation also at Glen last year was a little different because I was in the playoffs and Buescher missed the playoffs. So the only thing he had to do was go for the win, right? I mean, that was it. And so I did. I can't remember when I bet Buescher, but I know I had a bet on for the Glen because I was fucking happy he won. It was like 30-1 or something. I had him at some point throughout the week, I think it was, which is bonkers. It must have been post qualifying, but Buescher didn't make the playoffs, so his only thing at the Glen was just win, right? So he could take whatever strategy he wanted that he felt was best to get him the race win.
I completely forgot that he missed the playoffs. He did, though. He finished 17th last year. Huh. I just blanked on that one. Oh, good point, though. But yeah, he's one of those guys does not qualify well at road courses, but is very good at them. I'll tell you what, though. Looking back at a guy that I'm once again going to be interested in seeing how he does. And I know that I think a caution really aided this, but you remember who finished third at Watkins Glen last year? Who qualified top 5 at COTA this year? Who's in the middle of the playoff hunt right now? Carson Hocevar. Yep. I am very interested to see what that 77 car looks like this week. And whether he could be like a sneaky, not sneaky, because a lot of people are talking about Hocevar right now, when he's going to get his first win. But for a road course, kind of a sneaky pick to potentially break through and grab his first win.
I just wish we could have 5-car teams again because he'd be a lock to be that Hendrick 5th car. Because I think the 4 Hendrick drivers, I understand Bowman's had a lot of talk about him losing his ride and stuff like that and yada, yada, yada. But I believe he's under contract for next year as well. But that aside, like Bowman's been really good this year outside of the bad luck. Really good.
And he's really good at road courses.
Yes. And I wish Hocevar, like, again, I'm not a Hocevar fan. We all know this. But I wish there could be 5-car teams again just so, Hocevar could be that 5th Hendrick car because Hocevar deserves a top-tier ride. We all know that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Personality and on-track behavior aside, he deserves a top-tier ride. He is a top-tier driver. And I think, he's proven that with almost on any track type at this point.
Did you see Dale Jr.'s podcast? I think it was this week when he talked about Carson Hocevar.
I did not.
So I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was, excuse me, and I thought it was accurate. So he's talking about this car, and he's talking about the next gen car, and you throw the car out there, you have 30 drivers that are going to go put down a lap in 29 seconds in this car,
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to have a Kyle Larson go out there, and he's going to throw down 28.9. He's going to be a 10th faster because he's Kyle Larson.
Yep.
Most drivers, he said, are going to stay in that 29-second range. He said Carson Hocevar is one of those guys that's going to go out there and he's going to go 28.95. Yep. He has that talent to find a little bit extra in the car, and I thought that was really.
Well, I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that.
Yeah, it's and the more you think about it, the more you see how he's running this year in that Spire car. Like we all agree that Spire's getting better, but he's definitely.
I would say Spire might be getting better. Carson Hocevar is probably the reason why, because again, Justin Haley's sucking ass, and Michael McDowell's 23rd in the points, whereas last year Michael McDowell was, right on the board. Obviously, he had a race win, but even then was right on the borderline and was 23rd the year before with Front Row Motorsports. And I honestly don't know if Spire's improving. I do know that Carson Hocevar is the reason we think they're improving.
Right. Yeah. He's bringing those numbers up for sure. If he was having the same year as he did last year, we'd be like, okay, Spire has all these connections. Why the hell aren't they doing anything?
I mean, Justin Haley is running 29th, right next to Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon in a Colleague car, right? And so, I mean, is Spire actually behind Colleague? Because AJ Allmendinger's right there with Carson Hocevar, and we don't think Allmendinger's the talent that Hocevar is.
Valid point. Hocevar's actually had a lot of like bad finishes.
So is Allmendinger.
Yeah, that's true.
Allmendinger finished 41st. Nobody's finished 41st since 2016.
Here's an interesting little stat though. Looking at Spire Motorsports and overall.
Maybe average 2015. Maybe it was 2015. I always flip 2016 and 17. One of those was cutting to 40 cars, and one of them was stages introduced. Maybe it was 2015 was the last time somebody finished 41st.
Your memory's better than me on those.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know the last time somebody finished 41st was either 2016 or 2015.
Spire Motorsports last year, 2024, average finish as an organization, 21.6. Their average finish this year, even with hosts of ours, top fives, top tens, average finish for Spire Motorsports this year, 21.2.
Yeah.
One thing they have improved is qualifying. Average start this year, 18.7 compared to 23.1 last year, and 2 poles so far.
Is Justin Haley dragging them down versus Corey LaJoie?
there's the debate.
There's the debate, right?
Oh, there's the debate.
Or versus Zane Smith rookie year, but you know what I mean. Like, I would say Michael McDowell now versus either Zane or Corey LaJoie last year is comparable, and then the other one is like Justin Haley is arguably dragging that organization down.
Oh man. So Corey LaJoie last year average finish 23.7. The year before that, 20.8. Justin Haley this year, 22.4.
Yeah. I'll say this. Zane and LaJoie did finish 30th and 33rd in the standings last year. And Haley is 29th. So that either means like more chaos this year, or
we got Keselowski sitting there 32nd in points, and
yeah, because we know, yeah, that's true. Keselowski being 32nd in points, and Ty Gibbs is also probably a good chunk of that. I know he's 24th now, but like normally he'd be ahead of Michael McDowell too. You'd think. Man, what's Noah Gragson doing down there in 31st?
Yeah, he's another guy that is kind of like not talked enough about for how much he's struggling.
But he's also had good races like completely ruined.
Yeah.
Nashville comes to mind, and Texas comes to mind.
Wasn't he just running well at Michigan too? Or am I crazy?
I don't know. I kind of tuned out Noah Gragson at Michigan because I wasn't.
Yeah. I
wasn't really focused on him.
So I could be completely wrong there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely had those races where he's just had shit go wrong.
Yep. It's kind of weird when Noah Gregson's best finishes this year are Talladega and Coda.
8th at Coda this year, 4th at Talladega. He did get that top 10 at the Coke 600.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like Spire, we say they taken a step forward. I think it's, in terms of like a statistical margin of error, I think it's within the margin of error that they have not taken a step forward. You can't conclude they have, but you also can't conclude they've gotten worse. If we did like a statistical like t-test to get a p-value, if you could normalize things to a t-test, let's say, it would just be, you can't reject the null hypothesis of them being pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's accurate and fair. And I think that's a good point. If they didn't have Hocevar and pretty much anyone else, I think we'd all be agreeing that they're worse. All right. Anything else from these standings?
Let's get to Mexico City.
Shift focus to Mexico. All right. We're on to Mexico City. The Viva Mexico 250 from Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez in Mexico City, Mexico. We got a 100-lap race. Stages are 20, 45, and then 55. Wait, no. Stage laps. 20, 25, 55 are the stages. We get 2 practices on Friday at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. on Prime. Qualifying is Saturday at 12 p.m. on Prime, and then the race is 3 p.m. on Sunday. When I checked yesterday, it looked like there's about a 60% chance of rain on Sunday, so rain could come into factor here. This is our second road course race of the season. Christopher Bell won the first one. SVG, Kyle Busch were very strong in that race as well. Chase Briscoe looked very strong in that race for a while. But as you mentioned before, COTA might not be the best comparison track for Mexico City. So which track are you looking at that you think compares better this weekend?
The Indianapolis road course.
Yep. You did mention that last week.
That is the number one comp. I took all the road courses. I ran my sim scores in terms of things like track distance, elevation change, average speed, and I guesstimated the average speed of the Cup Series based off some other series that run at some of these other tracks that they also run at Mexico City. And I forget what the other variable was, but basically you can run some sim scores for these variables. And let me see if I have what the variables I used were. Oh, like track surface age and stuff. India road course was far and away number one. Wasn't even close, honestly. So Indy road course, I think, is an important comp this weekend. And now I know we didn't race there last year, but in 2022 and 2023, we did. 2021, we also raced there, but that was pre-next gen. That was the curb explosion. So I'm just using 2022 and 2023 Indy road course for the drivers that did get to race one or two of those races as an important factor, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Last time we raced the Indy road course, it was Michael McDowell, who pretty much dominated it. Led 54 of the 82 laps. Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez were the top 3. Chase Briscoe finished 6th in that race in the Stuart Haas car. And SVG finished 10th, but really wasn't overall a factor. He qualified 8th that day, led 1 lap, finished 10th. Christopher Bell also wound up top 10 there. And, of course, Chris Buescher finished 11th, as he does at road courses, top 11 king at road courses.
If we look at, real quick, if we look at current drivers, and I removed DNF or major incident races from the 2 Indy road courses, but if we look at current drivers that raced in at least one of the 2 Indy road course races, here's the top 10 in average running position. Number 1, Tyler Reddick. Number 2, Michael McDowell. Number 3, Chase Elliott. Number 4, Christopher Bell. Number 5, Daniel Suarez, home race in Mexico here. Number 6, Alex Bowman. Number 7, Kyle Larson. But Bowman and Larson each had a DNF in one of the 2. Number 8, Ryan Blaney. Number 9, SVG, but he only ran 1 race. Number 10, Chase Briscoe.
And again, that was in that
Stuart Haas Ford. And and remember in 2021, again, I'm not counting 2021, but he and Denny Hamlin were going for the win in 2021 on the exploding curb race. So,
and that was didn't Briscoe get penalized on that final lap?
Yep,
if I remember right.
He did.
Yeah.
He also won the first Indy road course race in the Xfinity Series.
So is this Briscoe week?
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
He was top Toyota for most of COTA. Remember that, even ahead of Bell.
Okay. Huh. I haven't been thinking about Briscoe this week.
You know who was number 11? Because all 10 of those drivers I named were the top 10. They're all current drivers, but number 11 was Martin Truex Jr. And now Briscoe's in that car.
Yeah, we've seen that 19 run really well at road courses. I remember specifically Truex dominated, what was it, the Sonoma race.
I'll tell you another thing. Toyota, I don't know if you saw this tweet, but they've been doing altitude training for the last 6 weeks.
Have they?
Yeah. Let me find the tweet.
That?
Yeah, I'm finding the tweet here. The Toyota Racing Performance Center provided a peek behind the curtain at its 8-week, sorry, I said 6-week, 8-week altitude program that Tyler Reddick, William Swalach, and other drivers followed. It heavily involved working out and sleeping in hypoxic environments.
Trying to get any, well, I mean, that's kind of a Toyota thing, trying to get any minor
Mhm.
edge that they can.
Exactly.
You know, you look at that move with the jack that they do on pit stop, and like you sit there and watching, like, oh, that's pretty cool, and then you realize that it's literally to save like a half a tenth a second.
Yep.
But when you save half a tenth a second on the racetrack in green flag, on a green flag run, that's a huge advantage. So that's cool, and also not very surprising that Toyota would take the initiative to go ahead and.
There's another thing that's been talked about with the altitude, and that it equates to lower horsepower. And you know what happens with lower horsepower? You don't fuck the tires up as much. So what that does is drivers that are normally smoother with the wheel and not fucking the tires up, they lose their advantage. So drivers that are more aggressive are going to actually have more of an advantage than they normally would, because they're not going to fuck up their tires as much. And this is
Allmendinger.
Yeah, well, and this isn't going to be a super high tire wear track either, because this was completely reconfigured in 2015. So they'd add a lot of new sections. So at minimum, all the new sections are going to be a decade old, and that's not really high tire wear. Where, you know, Michigan's a decade old, Charlotte's a decade old, more than a decade old. Like, we don't consider those high tire wear tracks. So Indy Road Course, right around the same track age. So I think it's going to be who's an aggressive driver, and who's been good at Indy Road Course, and who's got the road course performance, and who's got the altitude training. So, yeah, I think there's a clear favorite for me.
And I'm going to assume that it's not SVG, which is
Correct.
the heavy favorite from books this week. He's plus
Correct.
350.
Correct.
So who's your favorite?
This guy is number one in the Indy Road Course average running position that we talked about.
Reddick?
Yep. He's my favorite. He's not my model favorite. He is my personal handicap favorite. By model, he's not number one. But by my personal handicap, right? Non-model factors, things that you just can't account for, he's my favorite.
He's still looking for his first win this year, too.
And he's high enough in the points that he's not points racing. It doesn't fucking matter.
Right. Yeah.
The cut line is so far below him that he's racing for the win.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So do you think that the advantage is enough? You said, SVG isn't your favorite. Are you looking to bet against SVG in head-to-heads, or is it just one of those he'll be there, just you don't think he should be he should be that heavy of a favorite?
I honestly haven't thought about head-to-heads
SVG.
with him. No, I've thought about SVG. I just haven't thought about head-to-heads with him. You know what I mean?
Right. And there's not a lot out there. Like,
sure. Yeah. That's not anything I've thought about.
Mm-hmm. Any other? So we talked about Briscoe, potentially. Any mid-tier guys catching your eyes this week? I still think, man, I feel like I really want to bet Todd Gilliland top 10. I love betting Todd Gilliland.
I agree with you. Like Todd Gilliland. I like Zane Smith.
Yep.
I like. I like Allmendinger, and he's kind of mid-tier-ish if you count 14-16-1, right? Like, that's not so bad. The other thing is there's rain in the forecast. How does that affect things? Austin Cindric I like unless there's rain, then I don't like him. Todd Gilliland gets a boost if there is rain. I like Chase Elliott. I know you said mid-tier guys, but I like Chase Elliott. I like Michael McDowell. I like Daniel Suarez. I think this is a wide open race, honestly.
I think
Like
yeah,
Larson.
I think it's wide open among the road course, the guys that are really good at road courses. Like I don't see someone like an Eric Jones coming in and surprising victory, but I think the main road course guys are going to be strong.
By the way, this was an average running position ahead of. Oh well, all right. So let me just. I went through those top 10 in average running position among current drivers. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Chris Buescher is 23rd in average running position at Indy. Now, he did have that major problem, so I probably should remove that. But even then, he would improve just behind Austin Cindric and ahead of Kyle Busch. And Chris Buescher is one of the more smoother type drivers, I would call it.
Yep.
So I think he gets a big downgrade here.
And Indy Road Course was one that he really, to me, he never really, he finished 11th, 10th, and 12th there, which is, that's Chris Buescher. But you look at these other road courses, he's finishing challenging for a top 5. He's running in that 7th place. He never really got there with Indy Road Course. That's the most comparative track. And we're going to have this, the smooth guys kind of getting disadvantaged. This could be a non-top 10 week for Chris Buescher, as much as I hate to say it, as much as like this is always a boom. I'm betting
possibility, and he may have to points race.
Yep.
Especially if he qualifies 24th, right? Like if he qualifies 24th, and we know 18 other guys ahead of him are going to pit, he's going to come out of pits 19th. What's the point anyway in the optimal strategy? You almost want to just say, okay, well, if I qualified 24th and 18 guys ahead of me are going to pit, I'm probably going to finish 6th or better in the stage, get the stage points, at least for stage 1. So I think it's a good week to, at least early in the week until we see how things shake out, not be on Chris Buescher, maybe fade him in matchups or really look at other ways to just get off of Chris Buescher.
Yeah, and one thing with his qualifying, he doesn't always qualify bad at road courses, but the majority of the time he does. It's always the best to wait to bet him top 10 till after qualifying, because that's when he lengthens to, we can get him at sometimes plus 250 for a top 10.
And that's what I was talking about. 24th at COTA this year, 16th and 17th in the 2 next-gen races at Indy, right? So I think we're probably looking at that range at Mexico City, unless something, unless obviously like let's say Ford or RFK or somebody really hits on a setup there.
All right, here's the big question: do we get someone that currently is not locked into the playoffs this week at Mexico City?
Yes, because Tyler Reddick is not locked into the playoffs.
No, okay, not Tyler Reddick. Not Tyler Reddick. take out Reddick and Elliott, and
no, because Tyler Reddick's winning. You know where I'm going with all my picks, right? I'm taking Tyler Reddick to win. I'm taking Tyler Reddick 36 for 36. I'm all Tyler Reddick this week.
Man, you sound like me on Ty Gibbs last week.
Remember last time I was all over Tyler Reddick at a road course?
Yep.
Road America.
That was his first road course win, and I remember it well because I didn't believe you all week. And then the next week on Stacking Dennys, I walked in with my good dog with a tail between his legs. I'm like, Nick, you were right on Tyler Reddick.
I don't know. I just have that feeling, man. It's a Reddick week.
But okay, if we're throwing Reddick in there, yes, I agree with you. I think we get a new winner this week between Reddick, maybe even Hocevar, someone like AJ Allmendinger, SVG, Suarez,
Elliott, like you said. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think
Busch.
The odds for a new winner Kyle Busch, you bet on him. I think the odds for a new winner this week are very high, especially throwing a little rain in the forecast, and Austin Cindric already has a win. He sucks in the rain. That reduces his chances. Josh Berry is a race winner, and he's fucking terrible at road courses.
It's true.
Here's a guy who should be really good, and he does have a win, and I think is going to be
as well, by the way.
underratedly good. What'd you say?
I have a feeling about Michael McDowell this week. I don't know why.
I think he's going to be good too. Mm-hmm. But Ryan Blaney should be really good this weekend.
He is very underrated on road courses.
And Indy road course was arguably his best.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Ryan Blaney is going to be an interesting guy this weekend to and he's aggressive, which is, again, I think aggressive guys get an advantage. He's plus 180 for a top 10 at FanDuel. I haven't looked everywhere else, but that was the one I just immediately checked. I definitely don't hate that, especially if he's got a win now in his bag. So he's going to be on what we think is the optimal strategy, right? So plus 150 at DK, MGM, he is plus 110. ESPN. I'm just going through all the books here, trying to find the best odds on Blaney. 2-1 at ESPN bet if you fancy Ryan Blaney for a top 10 finish. Plus 250 at Bet365 is absolutely a must bet for a top 10 for Ryan Blaney. I'm betting that as soon as I can. I mean, come on. Plus 225 at Caesars. And if you have the Camby,
Caesars has their top 10 odds up.
Yeah, they could put them up, I think, right around the time we went live. And plus 140 at Camby Books. So, yeah, Ryan Blaney top 10. I love that one. That's not even one I'm giving out and running hot. So there you go.
I'm so you're hitting Blaney top 10 plus 250 at Bet365. You know what, you pushed me over the edge with Todd Gilliland. I'm hitting that right now. Live on Stacking Dennys. FanDuel 9-1 Gilly Gang. I'm all in on Gilliland. It's a good week when I'm betting on Todd Gilliland. It makes me happy. Gives me something to root for.
I agree. It's going to be an interesting race. I'm excited for it. And I could be completely wrong with my handicap too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's the main thing this week is like we have theories and thoughts, general observations for road courses, but at the same time, this is a brand new track and they're getting a ton of practice time.
Yep.
I think we'll see guys gain and lose some during the two practices. Like you said, rain can come into the forecast.
I don't think flags is going to be that useful this week. I'll just straight up say that. I don't think flags is going to be useful at all this week. I'm going to have it out there, but I don't think it's going to be that useful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to kind of analyze practice this week because you don't know if guys are testing stuff. If one guy's kind of slow on Friday and then gets a lot faster on Saturday, did they find something or did they just, like it's going to be a lot of, it's a week that it's another week where I'm going to end up betting it because I love betting road courses, but it's another week where my official recommendation is probably to not bet that much this week. And just go on to Pocono, I
actually think I'm going to bet more early week than normal. I've been obviously I've running hot and we have this podcast here where I give out bets and stuff, but most of my betting, especially during this 5 race intermediate stretch, has been post practice qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a week where I'm probably just going to take the early value and kind of just see what happens. Just rely on what I think is the early edge and see what happens. I'm sure I'll have post-practice qualifying bets, but I just don't think it's going to be as much as I have early week. And again, I'm not going to have a ton early week, but I think y'all can kind of see where I'm going with the drivers that I like.
Right. Where's Reddick at?
What are you asking? Sorry.
To win. Sorry, my action app isn't working on
best.
My phone has been shit lately.
Yeah, best is 9-1 at FanDuel. And then there's a bunch of plus 850s out there. So 9-1 at Caesars.
And I feel like 9-1 just overall in a road course for Tyler Reddick is pretty good odds. Because yes. I saw a tweet from the Win the Race guys. His qualifying at road courses is
he's nuts. Pretty much always top 5. So there's plus 850 at ESPN. DraftKings has 8-1. BetMGM's the worst at 7. So if you're gonna bet Tyler Reddick to win, you can pretty much bet him anywhere except BetMGM. He's 850 or 9 everywhere except BetMGM and DK, and even at DK he's 8-1. Just don't bet him at BetMGM. Like if you're betting Tyler Reddick to win, don't bet him at BetMGM. Everywhere else I'm totally cool with. Even if it's 8-1, I'm totally cool with that.
What are we looking? So I know you're on Reddick, but I'm curious for one guy, and I know you probably don't want to talk about him. Ty Gibbs had a stretch where he was really good at road courses.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
there's a lot of Ty Gibbs love this week? And
is there? I haven't noticed any.
You asked about him.
I just asked about him. That's not loving him.
Jim Sonis is on him. PJ Walsh is on him. So, everybody in my circle seems to be on him or asking about him. I'm not saying it's a bad bet. I'm just saying I didn't even think when we just talked about it, he was a 12th to 25th place car at Michigan, and he kind of got there on strategy and was able to keep track position because of the strategy. It's not there yet. We thought he was going to be good at COTA, and he shat the bed, relatively speaking, and he's kind of broken. And so if I'm gonna bet on Ty Gibbs, I actually agree you should bet on like his race win or his top 5 rather than a more conservative thing like a top 10, because if he's going to break out, then you may as well bet the upside. You're not going to bet the conservative side. You're looking for him to break out. So you got to bet him at least top 5 if you're going to bet Ty Gibbs. So that's kind of, and my theory on that. And again, I stole that from Jim Sonis. I think that's a great way to play Ty Gibbs that lets you invest a smaller amount of money because you're betting his upside. So you don't have to make as large bets. Like you can bet a 1/10 of a unit on him to win instead of a unit on him for a top 10. So in case he does break out, you're capturing that upside, but if he doesn't, you're risking less, right? Completely agree with Jim when he and I were talking on DMs earlier this week that's how you would play Ty Gibbs. But it's also just okay to just not bet on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. I feel like even if he comes out and he's fast in practice, I'm not going to be able to trust him because he's a Saturday darling at this point. He shows all the speed on Saturday and doesn't back it up.
Yeah. And he's done that. We talked about the makers, the shakers, the fakers, all that. He's a faker in terms of practice times versus race speed right now.
Yes. And for the mass majority of the time. I haven't seen any more news on this, but there's a chance that Denny Hamlin does not even go to Mexico this week.
Yep, exactly. Potentially no Denny Hamlin this week. There has not been a birth of a new child, and he says if it hasn't happened by Thursday, he's staying. He's not going to Mexico, which would mean Ryan Truex in the number 11 car.
Is it officially Ryan Truex? I didn't see that. I just assumed.
I have been told that it is, but I actually haven't seen it. But I've been told it was announced.
Sounds like it looks like there's some tweets of people that are kind of irritated that Hamlin's getting the pass that he is for potentially missing this race and Larson getting so crucified for it, the Coke 600.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
And you know what would be like not awful, but like an unfortunate situation for him is if he doesn't go to Mexico, he doesn't race, and she still doesn't have her baby, and he's still on baby watch for Pocono.
Yeah. But
I
mean, that's part of the exemption. It is a medical exemption for family.
Uh-huh.
So that's perfectly within NASCAR's rules. And, family leave of absence is pretty typical work thing. Even paternity leave, right, is a typical work thing that you get in most, I wouldn't say hourly or whatever type of positions, but most like corporate type positions where you're salaried rather than hourly is paternity leave. Even the fathers typically will get a week or whatever. I know because I've been working in since grad school for salaried positions, and I get that at least in all the salaried positions I've had. So it makes sense that's, and I'm not talking like any thoughts about that. I'm just saying that's kind of just the way it is, and it makes sense that would be a reason for a medical leave of absence in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so that's something to keep an eye on. Again, I haven't seen any news yet, and we probably won't for a little bit, but all right. Anything else from Mexico?
No, I think I got most of the thoughts out there.
Okay.
I get these weird feelings in these races of like weird ass handicaps. It was like Charlotte a couple of years ago where the Fords and the downforce and all that stuff, and it actually came true. And I get these weird feelings every once in a while with like these odd ways to handicap things, and more often than not, they come true. And I'm having that feeling with Mexico City around like the Indy Road Course, the horsepower deal. So it'll mean more aggressive drivers are better. The rain, some of these situations that we're talking about with Denny Hamlin or Chris Buescher, and how that might affect things. I think I've got strong feelings, so I'm probably going to bet more on this race than I should, and it's probably going to kick my ass. So if you have seen my record over the last year and a half, I've been not so good in handicapping NASCAR from a results perspective. I think Jordan would agree with me. A lot of it has been very bad luck. But when I get these feelings, have been some of my best weeks, and I do feel like this is going to be one of my best weeks. But that said, it's the complete unknown. So I would advise you to probably be more conservative than I will be on this race. You being listeners out there.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely that's my this week and new tracks in general. It's always do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
I have it.
I try to push any edge I can find because that's me. I like taking risks. I like, betting everything I can. I've made a bunch of bets already this week, and I'm not going to track all of them in the Action app because I don't think all of them should be tracked in the Action app. If you're just a smaller better or somebody that's more risk adverse, those kinds of things. I don't think this is the week for you all to bet a ton because I'm okay with losing 12 units, whereas you may not be, right? Listener may not be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to track my favorite ones and the ones I give out on the shows and a few that I don't give out on the shows, but I'm not going to track every single bet I've made because I don't think that is smart betting advice for the more casual bettor.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
That's where the difference between, and I'm not going to say I'm a professional bettor because I'm not, but I think that's the difference between like somebody who would be a professional bettor versus your Joe Schmo pro, whatever. These professionals push the smaller edges they have because that's why they're professionals. Like they have the ability to do that. So I'm pushing smaller edges this week. If you want to DM me and ask for more bets, I'll be happy to give them to you. I'm just not going to track them in the Action app, the more smaller edge ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Picks to win. I have a feeling yours are set in stone.
Tyler Reddick.
Tyler
You
Reddick.
can mark them all down already. 36-36, pick to win.
Tyler Reddick. All right. So last week you had Larson, and I had Blaney, who finished 32nd. Larson finished 5th. You have now a sizable lead on average finish for our picks to win, 12.13 to 13.6. You have Reddick this week, which again, great pick. I'm going, you know what? I'm going Kyle Busch.
Another aggressive driver.
Like I said, I bet him already when he opened at 25-1.
He's 9-1 at BetMGM, so I think I'm gonna blame you for that.
It's also kind of a hedge against my season long bet.
Yeah.
Because I have him under 1.5 wins or 2.5.
14 at DK, 16 at FanDuel, 12 at ESPN, 14 at BetMGM, and 15 at Caesars. So you pretty much moved him to the mid-teens.
And to be fair, I would not recommend betting Busch in the teens. I just couldn't pass up 25.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
It's definitely, if you like Busch, and I don't think I would have bet him at 25 personally. I'm not saying you shouldn't have. Again, that's like a smaller edge you push. I just didn't feel the edge myself. But if you did like Busch, you got to bet him at 25. You could not bet him in the teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying your bet was bad, because I actually don't think it was bad. I just didn't have an opinion on it really until until later in the week, and until I'd done a lot of research. Today has been, I'm typically off Mondays and Tuesdays, even though I work a little bit on Mondays and Tuesdays, again, during the NFL and college basketball off seasons. My weekend is Monday, Tuesday. So today I put a lot of work in today, just analyzing this whole fucking race, and kind of ended up where I am. But had I done that Monday, Tuesday, maybe I may have been on Kyle Busch 25-1 with you.
You know what I'm curious is to see how well of a job Prime does at explaining this track, and because broadcasting a road course race is much different than broadcasting a typical oval. And I don't know. I have a feeling they have some good stuff up their sleeve, so I'm excited to see that. But as far as picks, I'm going Kyle Busch, pick to win. And I'm with you. I'm with you on 36 for 36. I hate to pick the same guy as you, but I'm going Reddick. I think this is a very good place to use him and get stage points potentially. And
Kurt's agreeing with you too.
Kurt's agreeing. Yes. Link is sleeping, so he has no opinion. But yeah, I'm going Tyler Reddick with you here this week. Loved him last week at Michigan. That pit road incident was unfortunate. So, and I have this weird habit of guys that I really like one week, like the next week they win. So hopefully for us, Tyler Reddick's in victory lane. We both got him 36 for 36. Or DraftKings wise, shit, let me do this quick. So last week I had Byron, which I think I was beating you until Byron ran out of fuel and just killed the lineup. So you got another win. You extend your lead overall. I forgot to put these points in. And now my phone's not working. Why? My phone has not been working today at all.
My DraftKings code, right? I was just going to go. My DraftKings code is 33-27-33. That's the most Kyle Kirkwood code ever, because 33 is the number of starters in the Indy 500. So it's 33-27-33.
Paul
27
Menard.
is, yeah, Paul Menard. But Paul Menard is not racing, so not in IndyCar or in NASCAR. So I guess we have to bet Kyle Kirkwood to win this weekend, even though it's an oval and you don't really bet Kyle Kirkwood at ovals. He did dominate the most recent oval, most recent non-Indy oval that the series was at.
What's Kirkwood's odds at?
I think they're in the teens. I haven't really looked at IndyCar yet this week because the opening odds I saw, I was like, I mean, I could bet Scotty Mack or Pato or Malukas, but there's no reason to bet them right now. I can just kind of wait and see where things are and wait for all the books to open. So I think Kyle is in the low teens to mid-teens at most places, but honestly don't know. I don't know where he's best at right now because I haven't looked.
He's best at. Oh, I thought you meant just overall. He's best at everywhere.
Well, yes, he's the GOAT, so he's best everywhere. No, I'm just kidding. But I will definitely be all over IndyCar tomorrow. Get my IndyCar research in tomorrow and see where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Their gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Yeah, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Yeah. DraftKings wise, you had 255.95. That lineup cashed in the contest. I ended up with 228.2 after Byron killed it on that last lap. So 2,991.55 for you on the season, 2,925.55 for me. So still close. And this week is a very interesting week and difficult week to do these early DraftKings lineups because we obviously don't know the starting order, and that's very important at these road courses.
Yes, it is.
SVG is the highest priced driver this week. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson's up there. I'm going to go with a more centered approach here. My highest price driver that I'm going with is going to be AJ Allmendinger. I'm going to go Allmendinger. I'm going to go with my boy Busch. Again, we talked about him before. Chris Buescher doesn't typically qualify well on road courses, so I'm going Chris Buescher. Give me I'm going to go Todd Gilliland there. And then oh, crap. If I go Chase Elliott, I could get Ryan Blaney. If I go Chastain, I'm going to go Chastain and Bowman. So I'm going to go Allmendinger.
Wait. Do we have even a single same driver this week? I don't think we do.
This would be a first if we don't.
No, we have one. We have one same driver this week.
Holy crap. Wow, this should be really interesting then. So yeah, I'm going Allmendinger, Chastain, Buescher, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, and Todd Gilliland for my guys. I kind of just threw this together. Not a lot of thought in it.
I'll tell you overall. What I did have Buescher in there, but I pivoted off of him, and then pivot off another driver, Gilliland. So I switched it up instead. I had Buescher, Gilliland, and I switched it up a little bit. So I do like your lineup, but I like mine better. That's why it's my lineup. So give me as the highest priced driver in my lineup, Tyler Reddick.
Okay, yeah, he's solid.
Is anybody surprised that I'm going with Tyler Reddick?
Right, all in on Reddick this week.
Like I said, I do have AJ Allmendinger, so that's our same pick. I pivoted off Todd Gilliland onto Zane Smith.
He was my second choice down here, so I think we're close, just not going final decision.
Yeah, exactly. And that let me pivot up to Chase Elliott.
Okay.
So now I have 77.50 for two other drivers. I think low owned this week, Ryan Blaney.
Yep.
And that leaves you McDowell, Cindric, Briscoe, Bowman, Hocevar, Gibbs. I mean, just you could literally take any of them, right?
Yep.
So I actually think McDowell is going to qualify well. And maybe run a little worse. I think Cindric, I'm worried about the rain. Bowman, I'm not completely sold on at Indy Road Course. I'm not going Hosfar, so I'm going to go Chase Briscoe here. So there's my lineup.
I did not realize. I must have completely overlooked Briscoe down there. I didn't realize he was 7,900. All right. Reddick, Allmendinger, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, and Zane Smith.
And I haven't thought about qualifying for this. It may be, or like strategies, like are you getting stage points or finishes? It's just pure drivers I like this week.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns this week.
There is. There's a lot of unknowns, but then there's also the potential that this ends up, very typical of a road course. And then there's also this could end up being a shit show.
And I will say, I do like McDowell. I do like Cindric, right? Like I said, it's just I have questions more about them than I do about Briscoe.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I wanted to look at. Obviously, you're big on Reddick, and Bell's going to be strong, but Briscoe top Toyota could be a bet this week. Do you think?
You might be spoiling another podcast I have.
Oops. My bad.
You're fine. I mean, look, Denny Hamlin might not even make it there. Ty Gibbs has been questionable at best. So it could kind of be a 3-horse race for top Toyota between Reddick, Bell, and Briscoe. And that was the same 3-horse race at Coda.
Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for that week that Briscoe breaks out. 3 poles in a row and he shit the bed the last 3 weeks. Is this finally the week that he gets the finish?
If I'm right about my Indy handicap and about my aggressive driver handicap, this is going to be a Briscoe contending race.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big if, right? I don't know if I'm right about that.
Yeah, and it's also like I said, if you're betting on Briscoe, Reddick and Bell are going to be really good. I think Reddick, obviously you're big on Reddick this week. Bell, I mean, just won at Coda, certainly potential to win here. So, yeah, but Briscoe should be up there.
Yeah,
it's going to be a fun week.
I had my thoughts and my opinions this week, and I didn't realize they were going to be as strong as they were until maybe an hour before the show, an hour and a half before the show. But I formed some strong opinions this week and sticking to my guns.
I think part of
and when I'm wrong, you're totally allowed to flame me on the internet. I don't care. I don't care.
It kind of comes with the territory because there is so much unknown, So when you have small leans early in the week, it's much more easier to be like to fully convince yourself of them. You know what I mean? Because there's no back, like maybe not, because there's really no full information there from this track. So
have we already the Chase Briscoe top Toyota market? No, we haven't. Okay, cool. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and track it now. I already bet it. I'm gonna go ahead and track it now, even though I'm gonna give it out on Running Hot. Since I talked about it here, I'm just gonna go track it.
Yeah, they're currently reviewing mine.
Oh, I bet mine like way earlier today. Top Toyota, Chase Briscoe. He's 10-1 at. Is he still currently? That's what I bet him at. I bet 365. Top Toyota. Yep, still 10-1 there. All right. Nice. I'm gonna give it. Normally I do the Running Hot hashtag. I'm giving it the Stacking Dennys hashtag.
Hell yeah.
And that's bet 365, not Caesars. All right. There it is. Chase Briscoe top Toyota. Tracked in the Action Network app live on stream. I bet that earlier today.
I always found it interesting that FanDuel doesn't put top manufacturers out.
I thought that's interesting too, and there's no reason to not to. So I don't know what the deal is there.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. We'll be back next week to talk about your favorite racetrack, Pocono.
I can't believe that they don't have 2 500 milers, no stages every year. Unbelievable.
But hopefully we are back here next week talking about how good of a race this Mexico City race is. And I'm rooting for a new winner, whether that be Tyler Reddick for Nick this week or an underdog to shake up these playoffs.
Gilly gang, man, let's go.
Yes. Give me a Todd Gill. Oh man. I
told you he's my favorite driver in NASCAR right now. I'm really excited. Like, so I have like my favorite driver in NASCAR Cup Series right now is Todd Gilliland, but I really like Tyler Reddick. I really like Chase Briscoe. I'm like excited for this week because like my drivers that I like, I think are going to be good this week.
Yeah. Yep. You know what's funny is Marissa, who owns Luvabella, I saw on her story the other day, she was using Grillo pickles. And I was like, oh, Grillo pickles. I love Grillo pickles. And I think she asked me why. And I was like, they sponsor Todd Gilliland. Like,
yeah.
I don't go out and get stuff based on sponsorships for drivers, except Todd Gilliland. Like, I'll go and stop at a Love's when I see one because they sponsor.
Oh, I do. I wouldn't say always, but I would say a lot of the time, if I have an option, I will gravitate towards something that's sponsoring an IndyCar or NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I dislike the driver, like I think it's good for the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, that just reminded me of that. But yeah, go Gilliland, go Gilly gang. Rooting for you this week. Hopefully you look good in practice and qualifying, and books are still sleeping on your top 10, and we get another 11-1 opportunity because I'll hit that again. So,
yes, it's gonna be fun.
Good luck.
It's gonna be a fun week. I have no idea what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a fun week.
Yep.
Good luck, y'all.
Agreed. Yep. Good luck. Enjoy the race. Try not to bitch about it being in Mexico. And we'll be back next week to talk about Pocono. All right. See you guys.
See y'all.